This is the Wednesday Weekly Wins. Hi, I'm James Wedmore, and with 17 years online, I've built my business to over $12 million in sales per year. And this is the first non-business business podcast that shows you how to apply the principles of spirituality, energy, and mindset to grow your business beyond your wildest dreams, all from the inside out. This is the Mind Your Business podcast.
Hey, welcome back to my favorite segment of the week, the Wednesday Weekly Win. I have none other than Natasha Wilch here with me today. Natasha, say hello to everyone.
Hello, everybody. I'm excited to be here.
We're so excited to have you. You have such a unique niche and an incredible business by design success story. So why don't we start with you telling people who you are, what you do, and who you serve?
Yeah, so I'm Natasha. I'm actually a registered physical therapist, and I'm up in Nanaimo, British Columbia, in Vancouver Island. My niche and everything I do, from my brick and mortar clinic to my online business that I've built, is focused around concussion, both helping individuals heal from a concussion and training and educating other clinicians on how to support and rehab individuals on their own concussion journey.
And she's being quite humble when she says her little clinic up in Vancouver, Canada. She has a world-renowned clinic in Vancouver where people travel from far and wide to come and seek Natasha's expertise around concussion knowledge. She is the concussion expert. And what I love about this story is she's taken what was a very successful clinical practice at a brick and mortar and then translated it to a digital business to reach even more people. So why don't we start, Natasha, with your BBD journey? Tell us, how did you find James?
By complete accident.
My favorite way.
Right? Yes. So I have a couple girlfriends who the three of us have 3 online businesses. They're all completely different, but we support each other in our process and we cheer each other on. And one of our girlfriends is the girl that listens to podcasts all day long.
Yes.
And
I love her already.
Right. This is all she does. And I honestly can't remember what we were talking about, but she sent me actually one of Catherine Zinkita's podcasts.
Yes.
And on this episode, James was the guest. And James was talking about shamanic death. And I sat there and I was just like, I don't know who this person is. I was like, but this concept of talking about shamanic death and growth resonated so deeply with me that I was like, well, now I need to Google who James Wedmore is.
Mm-hmm.
And so then that's literally how I met James. And he was just starting to talk. I remember so funny. He was just starting to talk about the digital CEO and like BBD. I feel like it was the very beginning of probably the runway. And I was like, I don't know what this thing is, but like, whatever. Like, I'm just going to like put it aside. And then I dove into James's podcast and I started listening to James's podcast. And I think my favorite thing, I mean, we talk about it, like it's the blend. I say in my space, I blend science and spirit in everything I do in helping people heal from concussion. And I love that James blends business and spirituality and intuition. And so it just goes to a deeper level of me that I can't find a lot in the business space. So that is how I got introduced to James, was actually through Catherine, through my friend who forced me to listen to a podcast.
We love that. And Catherine's one of our best friends. So we just love people who come to us through Catherine. There may even be people listening on now that are in the same position as you, as who's James. I just heard of them. We're just now revving up for the Rise of the Digital CEO training. So let's see. Tell me about what happened once you start consuming some of the Rise of the Digital CEO, the free content. And I think that was like right when Business by Design was opening up, and then you just jumped right in.
So I started listening to the podcast, and then obviously as we're like ramping into runway, BBD starts and digital CEO gets starting to talk about more. And then we love algorithms because then it's starting to show up on my Instagram and my Facebook all over the place too. And so it was in my face and I was like, what is this? And I clicked on it and I was like, okay, I actually really I'm intrigued by this. And I should say, like, at this point, like as we were kind of going into that runway, my life was a little chaotic. I was going through some major personal changes, like relationship changes. My clinic had been like, we're starting to ramp my clinic back up. My clinic took a really big hit after COVID. So we're starting to ramp my clinic back up. There's a lot of things going on. And I had my Concussion Nerds program, which is the program for individuals for clinicians to teach them how to rehab concussion. And I had launched it once before. Launched, we can talk about that after. I put launched in quotation marks. I had done it before, but there was no like plans around it, nothing.
Yeah.
I just kind of like was doing this flying by the seat of my pants thing, I guess you could say. And
James likes to call it duct taping everything together.
I love it. And my calendar, like I think many people can relate to, is full. But as digital CEO was getting closer, I found myself just being more and more drawn to it and more drawn to like wanting to hear the message and wanting to hear what was being said. And normally I'm that person and that is signs up for a masterclass or signs up for a training with the intention to do the replay.
Yeah.
Because our day calendars are full. And it's funny because I always now do this when I write my email sequences. Because you sign up for it with the intention to do it, and then you don't do it. And it gets buried off in your inbox. And Digital CEO was the first live training that I knew I couldn't actually attend live because of the time of the day was. But I always made sure I actually went and blocked off my calendar for the next day or like within like the few day period so that I would actually watch the replay. And it was the first time I think I've ever done that. And so I watched the replays and then I was literally that person that was like, I'm in. And so before the doors for BBD officially opened, I was like, how do I do this? Like, how do I, and then there was the secret link that was dropped in iWes on like the last day of the replay, the last training that we watched live. But otherwise it was really truly blocking that time off because I think so often as entrepreneurs and aspiring people, we either have shiny object syndrome. So we get pulled in like 5 different ways. And so completion of something can be challenging.
Yes.
Or our plates are just really full and there's so many things vying for our attention that if you truly want to do something, you need to prioritize it and we need to be making the time to do it. And Digital CEO, for whatever reason, in the prep leading up to it was something that I knew I wanted to pay attention to.
Yeah.
I was at a place where I'm like, I've been willy-nillying this program that I love. Like I've shown it to you. Like I love this program that I've created. I believe in it so wholeheartedly, like the ripple effect and the impact it will have for thousands of people around the world, if not more. Like, I believe in it so much that I was like, it's time for me to actually take this seriously and find some ways to put this out into the world.
See, I love this part of the story because we were just doing the first 100 leads training. And obviously that training attracts a lot of people who are like, oh, I want to learn how to build an audience. And maybe even the title of it, your first 100 leads, implies you don't already have 100 leads. So it attracts a lot of new people. And someone in the chat said, I heard a rumor that Business by Design is only for people who are just brand new starting out. And James and I were like, oh, fake news, fake news, fake news. And that's what I love about your story, because you're coming in as someone who has experience, expertise, a laundry list of testimonials and results, and a tangible brick and mortar, and a digital product that's already selling. It's just not at the level that you want it to be. And the fact that you went, I'm going to block out time and start to pick apart what exactly do I need to learn out of this. And then we can talk about the results that you did after that. But that's my favorite thing about your story, is that it's the rise of the digital CEO isn't just for people who have no idea where to start. It's for people who have started and now they're at a plateau where they want to pop open the lid on that next level. And James can show you how to do that.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think too, what I love about BBD too is again, James guides you through everything, but the whole concept of so when I came into BBD, I had a product, I had an offer, but a lot of people don't. And I think that sometimes scares, and I've seen this in my own, like that scares people from getting started. we need to find ways to just take one step in front of the other. And when I launched my program, and then we've shared, I say, and I always put launch and loose, because literally when I decided that I wanted to do this, I went live on Instagram and I said, it was New Year's Day. And I said, I have an idea. And I'm a clinician and I treat concussion, and we need our own space, and we need somewhere to learn that lets you go deeper, but that connects us with community and mentorship and to do this. And I said, if you're interested, just drop a comment here and then let's connect. And I had 25 people.
Wow.
On that live video. I had I knew what I wanted to do, but I had zero program. And I jumped on the phone with 25 people. 15 of those people paid for my program before it existed.
Wow.
And what I said to them was, you are my founding group. Here's what I know this program is going to cover. Here's how I know it's going to be laid out. But I'm building it as we go. And so my promise to you, I thought it was going to take me 3 months. It took me much longer than that. But my promise to you is that you forever are part of this program for as long as it takes me to build every component of this out that I have promised you. And they came in, and those nerds, half of them are still with me today.
Oh, that's so amazing.
Piece of things. And so it's that piece of, you don't need to have everything done to start. And I always feel like I've always said, people can feel your heart. People can feel your passion. People know if you're coming at things from a place of wanting to make true difference versus just make a quick buck. And there's such a myth in this online space still, I think, that it's like get rich quick. And I think for me, it's like, I'm in it for the long game. Like this is not a get rich thing. This is like ripple effect impact and what we can do. And when you approach building whatever you're going to build with that in mind, you can't go wrong.
That's cool that you say that, because James tries to layer that in to the rise of the digital CEO. It's like, if you're here for the get rich quick pitch, you miss the boat. This is about fulfilling your dharma, being of service, building something that lasts, and really having something that you've either become an expert in or that you've been through yourself and you want to teach others. It's a Business by Design is also specifically geared towards people who are teaching one-to-one or one-to-many. Was there anything in particular in the Rise training that had you take action in a different way even before you got into the plug and play processes in Business by Design?
The only thing that like comes up to my brain right away is literally picturing the machine when he draws out the machine. And it was just a beautiful way it was just a different way to think about things for me, of like, here's the input, like here's all the stuff in the middle, here's our output. And he broke it down in such a way that it just made the numbers make more sense. It also made tangible goals too, right? So whereas before I'd go into trying to do something and be like, let's just get as many people as we can. And willy-nilly, like throw it out to the world and see what happens. And while I still try to be very unattached to the outcome, because I believe that the people who are meant to come into my space will be there, and I'm all that piece of things. But if I have an actual goal of like, this is what I want to achieve, I convert it 8%. And which means if I actually want to achieve this is now the input I need. And what are going to be our traffic values to create this so that we can create this? So he created such a nice, I close my eyes and I just see him like standing on the stage in that drawing, actually, of a way to tangibly be like, here's my goal. And now here's how I can backstep to understand the work and the tools that I need to put into it and the thought process we need to have to then make this goal a potential reality, as opposed to like stating the goal and just being like, and we'll see what happens.
So before joining BBD, you had launched your version of the beta program, which was rough and not quite ready. You got 15 people in it. And what was the price point of that offer?
So that was $2,700.
Oh, cool. Okay. So when you're coming into BBD already, you're sitting at like, what is that? 40K? About 40K?
Yeah.
Yeah. So then when you come into Business by Design, how did you where did you start what kind of modules did you put in place? And then what results did you start producing?
Yeah. So I did the digital CEO. And I immediately, like I said, I joined as soon as I could find a link to join. And then I printed the workbook the next day.
I love it.
And then I found they're like, James sends you a workbook. And I was like, oh, well, now I have two. And then I called my social media person because it was just her and I at the time. And I was like, we're doing a launch. And I hadn't done an actual launch in a long time. I had a really negative story and connotation mixed with launches in my brain. And this is from previous experiences too, but launches were stressful. Launches were like, they weren't fun. They like, you had to be on your computer all the time. Like I just had a really negative narrative around this. And then there's
I think a lot of people do.
Yeah. And it's like, you don't need to launch and And so I said, so what BBD did, or what the digital CEO did too, is get me really excited about this idea of launching. And like launching can be fun. And it's a way to like connect with a whole bunch of people at once and like really get people talking in this momentum around your product and all these pieces. So I called my social media person and I was like, we're doing a launch. And she was like, oh, okay. So we literally pulled it together in 14 days.
Wow.
And I dove into BBD and immediately went to the webinar training. And it's funny, and I think this speaks to obviously knowing your audience too, in the sense that my price point for this time, it's $4,200 for my program now.
Wow. Yeah.
So, and I was going to launch it off a webinar.
And everyone listening, I have seen this program portal. This program is extensive. It's scientific. There's diagrams. It's organized. It's around, the treatment of concussions. So and Natasha, tell everyone what you call your program too, because I don't think you've said it yet. You said nerd really quickly, and probably no one caught that.
It's called the Concussion Nerds program.
I love it.
And so whenever someone joins our program, they officially become a nerd, and we send them nerd glasses. So I have all these amazing selfies of the nerds from around the world. We are now in Canada, the US, New Zealand, Australia, and the UK.
Wow.
Wow. So all these nerds have glasses and then they send me selfies of them. And I love it. It like makes my day.
Yeah. So for anyone listening, what I like about this is the beta version that you did was 2,700, and you're delivering it live. It's before it was ready. I think you told me that it took took about 10 months to put it all together. Yeah. And those people stuck with you through it. A lot of them are still with you. But then once you get it all packaged and you see like, okay, now I know what I've got, then you raise the price point on the offer.
4,200. Yeah.
Yeah. And how did that launch do? When did you do that? So you joined BBD in June, and then you got going.
Yeah. So the beautiful thing about having those founding members too is they get to be part of the process. And
yes, when
you get to be invested in building something and creating that investment too, it's so beautiful. And so it was through like those. So originally my program was 3 months long. And it was in talking with the founding nerds, they were like, Natasha, it's too deep. It's too much for us to consume.
Yes.
So now the program is 6 months. And $4,200. And so the launch that we did in June was the first time I'd raised my price, I think a little bit before then, but it was the first launch we'd ever done with that price. And so
that's a big price range.
Yeah. And so I dove into BBD. We used the sales page template. We went and pulled like the webinar slide deck. We watched the webinar training. I went and pulled the email sequences, like post-webinar email sequences. I pulled every tool around that I could find in BBD to help me execute this launch. I had my social media person, like we watched some of the messaging videos, like we went and grabbed it all. We pulled it together in about 14 days. And we had a $40,000 launch that launch.
Wow. But in a month. So you joined in June and then you just pull the trigger and have a 40K launch with almost doubling your price. I mean, that's a big price increase. That's incredible. Okay. So, and now I think you have another offer that's even higher, right?
That's the highest one right now. So we have another one that's a little bit lower. Because I serve both clinicians and individuals on a journey. I also did a launch for a coaching program for people on a journey. And so that one is that's a $1,111 for a small group 3-month program. And I sold that out within a week. So that maxed out at
Wow. Wow. So yeah. So for everyone listening, what I want you to take away from that is that when you build an offer, like the way that you did it is just such a great example of you take the next step, like you said, from wherever you're at right now. So that could include doing what James calls the shot across the bow, or just go on Instagram. You go, I have an idea. This is what I'm doing. You want to come join me live while I do it. And then you build the beta as you go, and you're gathering data, and you're listening to your people, and you're finding out how you like to teach or what type of modules you want to put in the program. And then as you refine it, then you can actually create a different offer if you want, because now you've got something that's fully formed. And what you've done is you've created this really premium, high price point offer that's so all inclusive, and it's so rich in information and experience. And then you have a lower price point offer that sells out immediately, that pulls people into your brand and your world, but it's also at a less monetary commitment. So that's so creative to do it that way. And what I want people to hear about that is you don't have to see the whole road when you're creating your business. No, you just have to see what's my next step and then start building that. And the beautiful thing about Business by Design is that you get the little Lego instruction manual booklet for each little piece of that.
I think what's so funny is I remember, like, so I'm that person that's like, I want to have my prime example of, like, as long as you know your next step, like, that's go. Because we had a team meeting. So also, since being business design and being connected to the community, like, I now have an OBM, I found a Kajabi expert, and finally found my way, like, found connections to people to outsource things to, so I can get my time back, which has been amazing. And I filled it with other things, but it's still amazing. But like, we had a team meeting in October or November of 2023, and we mapped out 2024. We were like, hey, we're going to do a launch in February for Concussion Nerds. We were going to do a launch in March for the Medicine Circle, which is my other small coaching group. We were going to launch Concussion Nerds in June again, and then something else. And I'm also the type of person that is like, you might have the best laid plans, but, like, if my intuition is telling me to do something different, I do something different.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so from Business by Design too, so we did the June launch, and then we used everything we did in June, so it worked really well. And we did it again in October. And in October I got COVID in the middle of the launch.
Oh,
so I was out of commission.
Oh no.
But my team was able to execute everything because we had it all done.
Yeah.
So we could still do the launch, even though the person was completely out of commission. And we still, I think that launch had a $18,000 launch.
Wow.
And we took that. We then had 2 launches now to be like, okay, what didn't work well this time? Like, what do we need to refine? What do we need to shift? We made changes from that. We launched again in February, and we had a $25,000 launch in February. And every time, like in February, we went back to BBD again, and we're like, okay, let's watch James's messaging section again. And we even like more refined on our person and our messaging and this piece of things to be like, what do we need to do to shift? And then after that launch, it was this piece of, the timing doesn't feel right to do Medicine Circle. I was like, and then we were going to launch again in June. And I was like, I was like, something in my gut was like, it's not right. So it's like, but what is? And so we're now planning this huge virtual summit in September.
Cool.
And because, again, my thing is all about evolving and elevating the conversation and culture of concussion around the world. And in doing that, I am not a sole person and a voice that can do that. It is very much a grassroots collaborative effort with people who share passion about this topic. And so I work with amazing people who I also want to feature and want people to know about. And so I was like, I want to do something different. We've done webinar launches and we know they work, but I know we can up level a little bit now. And so we actually didn't launch, and we're not planning to officially launch in June. But we did do an internal email one, and welcomed a new nerd to the program. So that was exciting.
Awesome.
But we're planning this big virtual summit. And if I had done these other launches in between, then this summit would suffer because it's taking a whole lot of our attention right now.
Yeah.
And so it's, again, just trusting that you might lay out the best laid plan. I was super excited when we mapped out my entire year. But even in saying that to my team, I'm like, this is today's plan. I guarantee you it's going to shift. But then also having trust in yourself to be able to trust when something doesn't feel right to shift. And I don't question that in myself today at all in any of my businesses.
I think I have this in my notes, but do you know how much you've made in just since joining the program?
It's been about 80,000 total.
Wow.
Since joining BBD.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
That's incredible. What do you think is your most favorite non-business breakthrough? What's one of the coolest moments that's happened since you've been crushing your digital end of the business?
Oh my gosh, there's been so much. But I'm going to say recently, actually, like in the last few weeks. I feel like there's no such thing as coincidence. Everything happens for a reason. And like when there's these timing things that happen, you're like, I get very curious, and I'm always curious. What BBD forced me to do was to show up. What BBD forced me to do was to actually own who I am, step into my gift, and actually make a plan to deliver it as opposed to treating it as a side hobby.
Oh, so good.
And in doing that, and in the last, not even, what are we, 8 months, 9 months? Since doing that, I had 2 different companies reach out to me last week, being like, hey, Natasha, we found you on a podcast and we want to help you grow your brand. And
awesome.
I don't know what that means. There's like, I have meetings set up with both of them, but it's like, BBD forced me to step into like, this isn't a hobby anymore. Like, let's actually do the work. Let's make the plan. Let's make this a business. Own your voice and who you are and your gift. And it's in doing that and me showing up has now led to this really coincidental moment where I literally had 2 companies reach out in 2 days.
Yeah.
About like, we want to, like, we hear you and we hear your voice and we want to help you refine your message and grow your brand. And I'm like, I don't know who you are, but
and the impact of your work too, because I think we were talking about this previously before we were recording, but that, when in the nature of having something where you have a clinic and you have an expertise, of course, there's always going to be that outlier person that's like, Natasha, I'm getting on a plane. I'm flying to Vancouver. I want to work with you. But being able to certify these concussion nerds across the universe, now you're spreading your expertise to points on the globe that's creating this accessibility for this skill set that maybe wasn't available to someone who can't get in a plane and come directly to you, but you're able to have that much more of a ripple effect in what you're truly passionate about.
I mean, I'm always honored and extremely humbled when someone's like, okay, I'm booking so my entire caseload is serving my international clients. So my clinic, so I have a team of 12, I have a team of 14, and they treat local clientele on Vancouver Island, and they're now starting to treat some people traveling in too. My caseload is built entirely of people who fly in to our little island all over Canada, the United States, and now the UK and Holland.
Wow.
To come work with me in my intensive program. And I'm always incredibly humbled and honored when someone does that. Like, that's not a small feat. However, the flip side of me goes, they shouldn't have to. They shouldn't have to. Someone from anywhere, someone from Toronto or someone from London, UK, or someone from Boston, these are where all my clients come from. They should not have to get on a plane. Sorry, this is where I might actually get teary-eyed.
You're going to make me cry too.
They shouldn't have to get on a plane and fly to a new country to get rehab. They shouldn't have to do that to feel validated and safe and heard and to get a step forward in their treatment. And that is why people do come here, is because I just had this message. She's like, Natasha, she's like, I instantly feel safe when I'm with you. And these clients are getting like leaps and bounds progress in a week that they haven't had for years.
Wow.
That shouldn't have to happen. And I remember the first day and the first time, and we talked about this on, I think, before we started hitting recording too, is the first day I got a message that was like, Natasha, do you have any concussion nerds in Ohio?
Oh, I just got chills.
I was like, not yet. And now like that message of like, hey, Natasha, do you have any concussion nerds? And now it's clinicians and clients messaging being, do you have any concussion nerds in the UK? Or like, when are you coming? Like, when are you going to have some? We now have our first nerd in the UK. But like, when are you like, do you have any concussion nerds in Illinois? And it's just, people are recognizing that what we're doing is different.
Yes.
And the first time I got that message, I was like, ooh.
Yeah, because people are out there and they're looking for your specific brand of treatment. And that's only really made expandable by this digital part of the business, because you can literally learn from you from anywhere in front of your computer.
I am only one person. And I had a client, she was like, everyone that gets a concussion just needs to like run to Natasha's clinic. And I was like, that's amazing. However, there is no way that's physically possible. And again, they shouldn't have to. It's honored, humbled. It's amazing, because that is not common. That does not happen in the physical therapy world. That is a rarity that people travel to come work with somebody. But again, like, it shouldn't have to be that way.
I love that. And upcoming in the next couple of weeks, I've got another. You're going to hear 2 more case studies from people who took a brick and mortar, like physical practice, and then they decided, okay, I'm gonna make this digital. And then it's not only creating more, of course, freedom, financial freedom, time freedom, emotional freedom for them as the person delivering it, but it's such a wonderful thing. I think that there's also a increase of impact, because I think sometimes it almost feels like it would be a trade-off. Like, oh, I could have a digital version of the business, but then I would have to not see my one-on-one people, or not. I love the experience of just being in person, and you found a way to create all of that, but also really increase the mission of what you're doing through your digital business. What would you say to someone who is like you were just a year ago, and maybe they've got a vision for a product, or they have an idea for a product, or maybe even they've started forming a beta, but they just haven't asked for a coach yet, or they haven't gotten the support and the structure there yet to know exactly what to do?
Oh, it's just join. I remember listening to Business by Design, not Business by, so it would have been, sorry, Digital CEO. And I remember sitting there thinking, like, this is going to be a $10,000 program. And I was like, how am I going to make that work? Because here's the thing too. It's not $10,000.
It is not 10,000, disclaimer.
Hold on.
Not even
Disclaimer,
close.
not even close. And so then when the actual share of the, it is 100% a no-brainer. If you are serious about wanting to do this, like if you really do want to step into this space, and you're here to play the game, and you're here to have impact, and you're not here to get rich quick, then it is an absolute no-brainer to step into this program. And
I agree. James said he tried to price it at like, I want this to be like, don't even think about it, just do it. And and it's funny that you say that, because when he showed me the product and told me about the product, I said, what is it $10,000? And he was like, I love that you thought that, but it's not. And I just talked to someone today, spoiler alert for his case study episode that's coming up in a couple of weeks, but he said, I would say that I've thought about this, and if someone offered me $100,000 to delete my brain and forget everything I learned in Business by Design, I would say no, because it's worth more than that.
That's such a good answer. I think the other piece is too is you have to believe in yourself.
Yeah.
Right. When you don't believe in yourself, it becomes hard to then bet on yourself and make an investment, especially if the financial piece is a challenge. Right. But if you like look deep in and you truly believe it, and you might not fully know exactly what it is. There's many people that come into BBD who know they want to be in this space, who don't have a product yet. That's fine. But if you believe in yourself, and you believe in your ability to create, and you believe in that you have the passion to have impact, you will discover what that is. And take that bet on yourself and take that leap on yourself, because it's going to take you you're going to spin your wheels, and it's going to take you twice as long, if not longer, to do this and get started without a coach.
Yes.
And to invest in that, dive in, and honestly make your investment back within.
Yeah, immediately. I mean, and if you're like Natasha, you can just go ahead and go make 40, 50K in your first month.
And it's fully paid for.
Yeah. I think too, entrepreneurship, especially the digital brand, of the digital variety, you can meet a lot of people in your life who don't really understand what it is that you're doing. And it's so wonderful and supportive to be part of the Business by Design community, because not only do you have the coaches in there providing you feedback anytime you post in the Facebook group, and, I'm dealing with this, I'm in launch free fall, what do I do? But also all of the members come in and support you and cheer you on. And that's one of my favorite things to watch, is the community rally around one another for it to be such a collaborative force of an effort to lift everyone up towards what they're doing. So I think that's kind of that's always the sleeper benefit of Business by Design, is all the other entrepreneurs in there.
I don't know where this mentality comes from today, that we need to be lone wolves. We need to be like hyper independent. And I feel like it's a lot of it's real also, but it's very prominent with women as well in business, but in general. And it's why. And it's so much more fun when you have a community that you can go celebrate the $40,000 launches with. There's people in BBD who are having 6-figure launches, and it's just like, how amazing to have a space where you can come back to and share that and know you're going to be celebrated.
Yes.
And like cheered on wholeheartedly, and then encouraged to keep going.
Absolutely.
Like, community is, when everyone's like, what's the secret sauce? I'm like, it's your community. Like, all the coaching in the world is amazing, and it helps us take those steps. But when you're having that hard day, or you're questioning everything you're doing, or you get the first troll, or like you have a negative experience, or you need to celebrate the win, you're like planning your launch, you're super excited, you want clarity, having that community to go to run those things by, like, that's the secret sauce. And BBD
exactly
is incredibly interactive. And like, it's that community that led me to finding my online business manager, that community that helped me edit my sales page the first time, that community that helped me find my Kajabi expert. Like, that community was as much of my success as the program itself.
That's so cool. Natasha, where can people find you if they want to connect with you more?
I'm going to say the two best places would be my Instagram, which is at Natasha.Wilch. I am always there.
We will link that up in the show notes.
And then my podcast. So I have the Concussion Nerds podcast, where I share information on all the holistic aspects of concussion healing for both clinicians and individuals on a journey.
So cool. Oh, thank you so much for being here. Your story is absolutely incredible. I can't wait to see what you do in the next year, because if this is what you've done in 11 months, then I can't wait to see what's on the horizon next. So excited for you in the next phases of your business. Thank you for being so generous with your time and for sharing your story, so that those out there listening can feel inspired by what they're going to do next in your digital business. And we will catch you next time on the weekly Wednesday Win. So come back next week for another Business by Design success story, and we'll see you next time on the Mind Your Business podcast.